Hey, this is Brady with the Pickleball Effect. Today we're going to take a deep dive into paddle shapes. We're going to talk about what paddle shapes are available, how the shape affects the performance of the paddle, and ultimately how to pick the right one that makes sense for you in your game. So when we're looking at shapes, there's three general shapes out there. We have elongated shapes, classic, and then wide body. So when we're talking about shapes, brands have some parameters or some limitations they have to work within. So they have 24 inches to work with. When you add the total length and width of the paddle, which includes the handle and the edge guard, it cannot exceed 24 inches. So within those limitations, they've come up with these three general shapes. So starting with an elongated shape, elongated paddles have a couple of benefits. Primarily, you have an extended reach, right? Plus the sweet spot is moved up on the face a little bit, which makes the paddle feel longer than it is. So you get that extended reach, and then you also get a little more power. So because the paddle's longer, you can get a little more leverage on it, which helps you generate a little more paddle speed and add some power to the ball. Some of the downsides of an elongated shape are the size of the sweet spot is just a little tighter from side to side. And then because it sits higher, the bottom of the paddle is a little less active. They're not going to get as much action down there because the sweet spot has moved up. So elongated shapes are about 16.5 inches tall and about 7.5 inches wide. You'll see, some a little taller, some a little shorter, but in general, those are the dimensions you'll see when you're looking for an elongated shape. So talking about classic shape now, this is the Babolat Monster Power. This is a classic shape. It's about 16 inches long and then 8 inches wide. So this classic shape just sits right in between the wide body and the elongated. So it doesn't necessarily excel in one area, but does everything well. So it has a decent sized sweet spot that's maybe slightly up on the face. It's more forgiving than elongated, but not quite as forgiving as a wide body. You're going to get a little more power with the classic shape over the wide body, but a little less compared to the elongated. So that's the classic. And then when we're looking at wide body shapes, this is a temper expanse. So these are about 15.5 inches tall and about 8.5 inches wide. So the benefits of a wide body are the added forgiveness because of the larger sweet spot. The sweet spot sits in the middle. It covers more of the paddle compared to an elongated, especially elongated, and even more so than the classic. So you get that the extra forgiveness. It helps with consistency. It reduces errors, but you do lose some reach, right? So you sacrifice a little bit of power, a little bit of reach for that consistency and that bigger sweet spot. So when we're talking about how shapes fit different play styles, wide body is going to fit more defensive, more patient players. And it's also a great shape for entry-level players because it's more forgiving. It's going to help reduce errors, and it's just more player-friendly in general. Classic, like we said earlier, is just that all-court playability. If you don't know which shape you want, go with the classic. It does everything good, but doesn't necessarily excel in one area over another. The elongated shape is typically preferred by more advanced players. When we look at players on tour, the majority of them have some sort of elongated shape. Ben Johns has his signature paddle that's elongated. Tyson McGuffin has that Selkirk Invicta that's elongated. Then when you look on the women's side, you have Catherine Parento. She has the Paddletech Rain that's elongated. And then Jessie Irvin, she actually plays with the Pursuit MX, which is elongated. So the majority of pros do play with elongated shapes, not all of them. But it is the preferred shape by them and more advanced players because they like the extra reach and they're just a little more consistent and can deal, the size of the sweet spot doesn't affect them as much as maybe a more entry-level player. So the last thing I want to mention is handle length. So if you have a longer handle, it's going to eat into the size of the head. So just as an example, I have this paddle here. This is from Gamma. It's called the Compass LH. So this is probably the longest handle on the market, but when you look at the paddle, you can just visibly notice how small the head is. So just pay attention to that. A long handle is considered anything that's about 5.25 or longer. I think 5.25 up to about 5.5 is good. Anything above that really eats into the playable surface area. And then on the flip side, if you have a shorter handle, as an example, I have another one from Gamma. This is called the Hellbender. This is 4.5 inches. So this is on the shorter side, kind of a standard length is 5 inches. So the shorter handle is going to give you a little more paddle surface to work with, which can help with forgiveness and things like that. So along with the general shape of the paddle, you want to pay attention to the handle length. So in application, let's take a look at a couple paddle brands. So starting with Selkirk, if we go up to their paddles, we'll take a look at the Vanguard 2.0 series. So all the paddles in this series are constructed the same, meaning they have the same core, the same face, but the only differences they offer are in shape. So they have their S2 and their Epic, which are both that standard shape but have different handle lengths. Then they have their Invicta, Omni, Mach 6, and Maxima, which are all elongated shapes with different handle lengths. So you come in here, you know you want a Vanguard 2.0, and then you just pick the shape that best suits you, right? So if you want something with a little more control, a little more forgiveness, you're going to go with the Epic or the S2. If you want something more aggressive, more offensive ability, then you're going to go with one of their elongated shapes, and then you pick the handle size you want. So that's a Selkirk example. Another one is from Temper Sports. If we go look at their Lux series, again, all these paddles are constructed the same. They just offer different shapes. So their Rave is their elongated shape. Then they have their Ascend and their Tantrum, which are both above 16 inches. So I would call them elongated, although they're not quite as long as a typical elongated shape. And then they have their Oculus, which is their standard shape. So it's closer to 16 by 8. Then they offer a wide body in the Expanse. So if you know you want a paddle from the Lux series, you come in here and then you find a shape that fits your game. So there you go. I hope you liked what I had to say. If you're into it, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Go, go, go.